All right, welcome to this video. So I wanted to prove that I could make a simple nostr app using vibe coding techniques. And so what that means is I want to be able to use something like a cursor, windsurf with an LLM model to drive it. And I want to write no code, and I want to be able to prompt an application into existence. And the purpose of this is that I want to prove that it can be done, kind of as a proof of concept, so that people who maybe don't have software development skills or aren't super technical still can build on Nostr and build Nostr applications. Separately, I actually did this for a Bitcoin Lightning game that I did a little bit later. I can show that too. But for this, I want to show the Nostr message signer because it's kind of a full end-to-end complete thing, and it doesn't take a lot to do, but there's a bunch of places that I screwed it up along the way. So I just want to take you through sort of the process. If you basically don't have a lot of context, you've got a Mac, you can get some of the software set up and build your first Nostr app. And this is shout out to Max. We did a live stream today, and Max's birthday is tomorrow. And so I promised Max that I would make him this video for his birthday. So happy birthday, Max. So when you want to think about getting started, I would download something like Cursor or Windsurf. I'm going to do this demo with Cursor, but I've also been using Windsurf a lot lately. I used Cursor for the Nostr signing message app, and then I used Windsurf for the Lightning app. So for this one, we're going to look at the Cursor thing. What I would do is I would start, this is kind of like once you get Cursor installed, you basically have this kind of setup. I would go to Open Project here, and you can just create a new project. So create a new folder, and you could call it something like, I've been calling them cursor hyphen something. So, my new app or whatever you want to call it. And then you make that, then you open that that folder, and then just basically like sets up a workspace for you. I want to actually take you through the workspace that I already worked with and got this thing going. So this is a workspace. You can see there's already like, the middle has some of these files like app.tsx, get ignore. You don't need to actually know what's going on here right now. If you're curious, you can learn, you can read. It's useful to understand if you want. It can help you with debugging and stuff, but it's not critical. So I would say, like, to start, just ignore this stuff, or like don't worry about the fact that it exists, and focus only on this right-hand pane here. Now the right-hand pane, this has actually been through the whole session, so I want to take you through the session that I went through to get this Nostr app going. And I'll just show you like some of the pitfalls and some of the stuff that it was doing along the way that helped me kind of finally get to a result. And then at the end, I'll show you the result exactly as it worked. But I won't show all the intermediate failures. I'll walk you through the failures, but I won't have the demo of the failures necessarily. So if you can read up here, what I did, the first thing I did is I said, make me a Nostr app on the web where I can create a new Nostr identity. The user can input a message, and it will be signed and pushed out to a dozen or more live relays, so my message has a good chance of being discovered across the network. I happen to know that WSS://purplepage.es could be useful to accomplish this, but you can use whatever method is best. The reason I mentioned that, I wasn't sure that this was going to be super helpful or important for this use case, but I think I was talking about vibe coding on Nostr maybe, and somebody mentioned that I should use that, or maybe it was in a private chat, I forget. But anyway, I listed that. I don't think you actually need to list that. That was just like a little bit of detail. But you just basically like submit that message, and then here's Cursor coming back. I'll help you create a web application for signing and publishing Nostr messages. We'll use React for the front end and the Nostr tools library, which is the most popular and well-maintained library for Nostr development. Let me set up the project structure first. First, I'll create a new React project using Vite, which provides a modern and fast development experience. So you don't really have to do anything with this. You can notice that it exists, but basically as it's going through, it may have little blue buttons here where you have to say accept or accept all, and you just basically can accept. You don't really have to be in the weeds here. It's nice to be able to see what's going on. If you understand it, you can dig into the details, but in general, I would say let it cook and it'll be fine. Talks about some dependencies it wants to install. We'll need Nostr tools for Nostr functionality and some UI components from Chakra UI React for a nice interface. So you just like keep clicking accept and say it's fine. Now I'll create the main application code. First, let's modify the app.tsx file. So keep clicking accept. You can see here it said error calling tool. Sometimes when it does that, it'll credit you back the credit for, asking it, or sometimes it'll just kind of keep rolling. Now let's update the index.css to provide some basic styling. You just click accept, accept. Let's create a readme.md file to explain, accept, accept. Now let's start the development server so you can try out the application. So it's doing all of this after me just writing that initial message. You can see it had another tool call failed. I apologize for the error. Let's first install the dependency and then start the server. Tool call failed. I apologize for the technical difficulties, blah, blah, blah. So it's going on and on. It looks like it's kind of doing the right stuff. You can see application features, a button, a text area, a button to publish, real-time feedback on publishing status, clean modern UI using Chakra. And then it says the application connects to multiple relays, including Purple Pages, relay.damus.io, and several other popular relays for maximum network coverage. So you can see that like the LLM knew to use Damus, for example. Like that's pretty cool. It knew that that was a popular one and just kind of figured that out because it has a lot of information about what people are doing and can see that on the web. So it tells you to run the application. So if you're not familiar with like running applications and deploying, it's just good to get a little bit of a sense here. So I showed you how I structure, and I would just like create a new folder, and I would just let all the files live in that folder. Well, then you can go to that folder. If you open the terminal, you can do command space in terminal, and that'll open up this thing, terminal here, and you can just navigate to that directory. So you can go like cd, and then you're probably in your, this is your home directory. So if you sort of were in here, you can just navigate to that directory that you just created where this code is living. You can see we're in that directory, cursor -nostr -sign -message. And so this is basically where I'm going to run the server. So when you first start a new application with Cursor, you're not deploying it directly to the web. You're first running it on a local server, and you're connecting to it from a web browser. You're connecting to your local server from a web browser. So you're basically using kind of a client server kind of web browsing model, but you're doing it all locally first. Just get the application working locally, and then once you've got it working and you like it, you can deal with pushing it to be out on the web, which involves a couple extra steps, which we go through here. But you want to like maybe push it to a GitHub repo and push it to Vercel to sort of host. So it's very, very easy, and you can literally ask the LLM to help you with all that. So it's not challenging at all. There's no real technical knowledge you need to do that. But it just helps you kind of, try it out locally, and it's like the simplest way to do it. So it says run npm install, run npm dev to start the development server, and then open your browser to the URL. You can see the URL that it shows here is localhost 5173. So I'm actually going to run npm run dev, and we'll confirm here. See, it says the localhost is this HTTP. It's kind of a funny URL. If you're not used to local development, you'll notice that it has this http://localhost:5173. You just trust that that's the URL that it'll be running, and you could access from a browser. So now we'll go to a browser, and this is localhost 5173. I'm typing into the thing. This is what it's doing locally. You can see actually, I literally have at this point I'd only written that one prompt. I guess it's got all of the code that I still haven't walked you through yet. So this is a little bit more advanced than where we are. But that's how you would get this thing started. So you can see it's got basically the features that I asked for, and it's got a little bit more here with like the status indicators of all the relays it's connecting to. I may have asked for that later. So anyway, it says I've completed the steps in the readme.md. That one can be useful. So if you navigate over here, you can read the readme.md. And this is, a series of steps you can go through to actually get this thing built or out and deployed. It's very easy. It's like a little recipe it'll give you, but nothing that you have to really worry about there. It's like all very easy to use. Oh, I'll notice that you can see here I'm trying to use, well, I guess in this case it was it doing the work. I'm I'm trying to think here. Oh no, I did. This is me typing. So I said, I've completed the steps in the readme.md. And when I navigate to the localhost URL, it advises in the terminal I get a blank white screen in the web browser. I'm not convinced this is working properly. Can you help fix it? So that's what I wrote. And you can see here, I was actually using, you can change which model it uses. So if you've heard of some of these coding models like Claude 3.7 Sonnet Max, Claude 3.7 Sonnet, Gemini 2.5 Pro, Experimental 3.25, that's the fancy one that just came out last week that everybody's talking about. That's the one I would recommend using if you get a chance, because it's million token context window and it's really good. But anyway, this is just me like interacting with the LLM and telling it what went wrong and what I was seeing, because it wasn't rendering initially. It had some problems. But I explained that it says, I see the issue. There are several TypeScript errors in the app.tsx file. So if it doesn't work, just tell it doesn't work and it can help you. And you can look at things like the console of your web browser. I can show you how to do that later. But you can look at the console of your web browser, see things that the web browser may be complaining about. You can just literally paste those in, and it'll know that you're asking to fix it. And then it'll say, oh, I see what went wrong here. Okay, now let's fix this and that. And again, you're just like accepting changes all along. You don't really have to do much. So you're sort of functioning like a product manager. You're sort of owning what the product is supposed to do and telling it what features you want to start with, and then fixing it when features go wrong. And just making sure it works and reporting bugs so that it can fix the things that went wrong. So it's actually, pretty, doesn't require a ton of depth in really what's happening here under the hood. But it's nice in Cursor. You can see all of that if you want. The application should now be working properly. Here's what I fixed. So it's reporting all the stuff that it fixed. And then I said, I'm still just seeing a blank screen. And then I submitted that. And then it said, I see the issue now. So we're kind of just going back and forth. I could, if I were stuck, I could be like, hey, I don't understand what I'm seeing here. What should I do next? Or I'm stuck, help. And it can probably just get you out of a hole if you dug yourself into. Let me check. Doing stuff. Now I see the issue. Let me update the app.tsx. So it's just going about it. That's fine. I'm looking for the next thing that I typed in. It had now the app is working correctly. Run npm run dev again, which again I did in this terminal window, and then connect to your local host again. So now this is me writing again, and I say it claims to have successfully published the message to Nostr, but when I try to navigate the account with another third-party client that I believe is working properly, the message does not appear. Can you show in the UX the relays that are being connected and show the status of each for receiving the message? Try to find at least 12 relays that are commonly in use to ensure the message is easy for me to find with a third-party client. So that's sort of why this section came up. This, you can see relay status, where it sort of shows the status. You can see it decided to show like number connected, 11 out of 11, 2006 milliseconds, how many messages, and then it actually has this thing that it does where it shows more detail on the logs, I've noticed, when you do connect. So it kind of just decided to show these details while it's connecting. Like, I think it will end up showing more of it if and when I publish a new message. But you can see I'm just talking to it like I would talk to a person. So it's quite easy. It says I'll modify the app. Okay, then I went back and I think I was still not working. So I said, this is me again. Are you certain you are connecting to these relays via WebSockets and publishing the message via Nostr as specified? Maybe you can show more information about the relays and statuses, e.g. ping times. Okay, so that's why the ping time showed up before the publish is attempted. And those relay connections could be refreshed in case they don't appear to be working well. Also, can you add the primal relay? I thought that was a very common one, but I don't see it in the list. So, yeah, I guess that ping time stuff is something that I specified. Sorry, I actually did this on Sunday, and I've been doing a lot. I didn't remember I'd asked for that. So you can see it just adds that, and it also added primal at that point. It's got some icons it's adding. So it added the primal, and it gives you the report every time it does a bunch of work. Added the primal, added connection testing before publishing, added refresh. Then I said, I don't see the ping times on each relay. I'd like to see more verification of receipt by each relay and more detailed logging of how the WebSocket connections are performing. I don't believe this is working, and we need more tools to help debug what's going wrong here. Again, that's the level that I'm interacting with. It does get a lot wrong, so it's not like everything works right out of the box first try. So you sort of have to be willing to dig a little bit, but you don't have to necessarily deal a lot with like the file structure or what's going wrong, you can kind of just talk about the problems and it will come up with solutions. I also sometimes like to tell it to think hard, and I find that it does think harder sometimes. When I visit the URL, it now shows an empty white page. I can't use the app or monitor anything. Please ensure this is fixed and working properly. So that was the next thing I said, and then it said a bunch of stuff back. Let me fix, let me try it different, let me fix, let me check. I see the issues, the code should now work correctly, and then it gives me the update on everything it did. And then, here's me again. All of the logs seem to show that the subscription closed WebSocket error, but I can't review the error logs. They get cleared too quickly. It looks like all the publishing relays return with an error. Are you publishing to the relays according to the protocol? Are you using the created identity to sign the message? Can you check end-to-end that you can create an identity, write a message, connect to relays, sign the message with the private key of the newly created identity, and publish a signed message to the relays? I would like to make sure each step is working well so that the end-to-end will be successful. So I'm sort of, in a sense, trying to figure out, like, it kind of looks like it's working, but at that point, it wasn't writing anything out. And then it said, you're right, let's verify each step. So it tried all the steps again. And then I said, this still doesn't work. After creating an identity and writing a message, I should be able to publish the message. Then I should be able to go to a third-party app like Damus and search for the endpoint of the newly created identity, and Damus should find that identity. Does it need an initial registration and broadcast step upon creating a new identity to tell the relay that it is intending to start publishing messages? Once that identity is found with Damus, I should be able to read the newly published message. So I think this may have been key. And again, I mentioned this on the live stream today, but I think, does it need an initial registration and broadcast step upon creating a new identity? I suspect that that's actually what fixed it, because I suspect that's just part of the nostr protocol. I've never built a nostr client before. This is my first, little mini client project. So I don't know for sure if that's required, but I kind of suspected it might be because I know enough about how it works or how it's supposed to work. And I think after I did that, I think that's what finally made it work. So create identity, and now it has this publishes profile to relays. So before it tries to publish the first message, it publishes a profile to relays. So that's an important step. And I guess at some point I should probably just consolidate this into like what actually worked so that you can kind of start one of these things from scratch and just get it and not have all these intermediate steps of me debugging. But I'm just showing you sort of what I did. Can you help me deploy this to the web? Okay, so basically at the time I asked this, all of the running the server locally and visiting it on my local host worked fine. So then I was like, okay, I want to find an easy way to deploy this to the web. So it says, I'll help you deploy the application to the web. We'll use Vercel since it's one of the easiest platforms for deploying React applications and offers a generous free tier. So we did that. It set up a get ignore. Let's see what it did. Deploy the application to Vercel. It's writing all this stuff. Create a new repo on GitHub. So this is steps that I needed to take outside of Cursor. Go to github.com/new. Name your repository. I already have an account there, so I can just take like my current account, log in. I created this repository that it suggested. Don't initialize it with any files. Click create repository. So I did that. After creating the repository, GitHub will show you the commands to push your existing repository. You'll need to. And then does that. Then deploy to Vercel. Go to vercel.com, which I didn't have an account for. Sign in with your GitHub account, which I did do. That was fine. And then build command npm run build. Install, output directory dist, install command npm install. So it's like a few configuration options within Vercel. It was very, very easy. I had never even had an account and got it up and running within like minutes. It was very easy. I'll help you deploy the application to Vercel, and get some icons in there. A repo first. Let me help you with that. So I guess somehow it got stuck with the. Maybe I had written something here. Oh yeah. Then I think I said, can you just do the deployment yourself? So you can literally just talk to it like a person. And then I pasted, here's the repository URL, which is my GitHub. And then it's going. And I think that is and it says, great, the code has been pushed to GitHub. Now let's deploy to Vercel. I'll help you set up the deployment. I did these last final steps it recommended. And then at the end, you can see it has this URL cursor-nostr-sign-message.vercel.app. So now that's a deployed URL on the web. And you can take that thing and you could navigate it, or you can hand it to your friend and they could navigate to it. And now this is actually up and running on the web right now. And this is a nostr message signer. And so just like the original request was, I want to be able to create new identity. So I create new identity here. And you can see now it says your public key, and you can see the npub1, that's the public key associated with this. Now this is a first message of this identity for a video I'm making. So I can see a bunch of relays look like they're connected. They all have different, slightly different ping times, so it looks like it's probably doing the right thing. And I'll make sure that they did have, you can see primal.net, because I explicitly asked for that one. And of course Damus, which it originally suggested. And I'm going to publish this message. And it says message published successfully, your npub, which is the npub above. That's good. And I didn't even ask it for that confirmation toast, but it kind of just knew to make it. It kind of assumes that somebody making a web app like this would want a confirmation toast, it's kind of surprising and cool that it actually does this. Now I'm going to go to Iris, and I'm going to search for this npub. So this is the npub that I copied from the nostr message signer. So now we're going to show new event, and you can see this is a first message of this identity for a video I'm making. So you can see this is using Iris as a third-party client that can browse the npub that my app just made. It's kind of a throwaway because I actually don't have the private key myself. I didn't ask the application to make that accessible to me. So you'd want to do that. But you can see the npub browse from another service that can read the message. So that kind of to me is proof end-to-end that I was able to create an identity, I was able to write a message, publish a message, and it's readable by a separate client. So I consider that kind of end-to-end a win. We've been able to build a simple nostr app, and I didn't even write like a line of code. All I did was prompt it and complain when things went wrong and then ask it to fix it. So my goal in doing this is to help enable more people to be able to build whatever nostr app you want. I think when I was talking about this, somebody wrote that they had a Brazilian jiu-jitsu tracking or sharing app idea they wanted to do, or they had already been working on. So I hope you could take that kind of idea and use nostr and integrate nostr so that that idea can now sort of live on that open web with signed identities and signed messages. So it's very basic. There's a lot more you could do and go from here. And yeah, maybe I'll make a video about the Lightning one maybe in a day or two. That one's not deployed on the web yet. That's just, it's running locally, and it's a bit more complicated setup. The way the Lightning integration works is a little more complicated than the nostr stuff. But I thought this was a good starting point, and it helps you get end-to-end all the way up on the web. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm just trying to do this to help more people build stuff on nostr. But if you have any questions, or if you get stuck, I'm happy to try to answer questions or get you unstuck. So hit me on nostr. You can find me on nostr at go to my npub is easiest to find me at primal.net/dk, and you can find my npub there, and you can write to me messages. So I hope you get a chance to vibe code nostr, and I will see you in an upcoming video where we do even more vibe coding with nostr and Bitcoin.